Okay, so in this video, we're going to take a look more closely at the quizzes that we have brought into the courses for you. So this is the home page here, obviously. I'm going to go to quizzes and click on quizzes. That takes me from the tab, it takes me into manage my quizzes. You notice some of these say inactive. What that means is the students cannot access them as we look at it. And the practice exam is right at the top. Well, the practice exam we use for our embedded assessment to see how students have done, so that everybody who's teaching principles of agronomy in this case, or whatever course you are teaching, all instructors have their students have to take that practice exam, and then we can check how the scores are going on between the different courses. And then you scroll on down, you see all questions, practice quizzes, and then down at the bottom here you also see some random, some practice. So the order isn't exactly the way I want it. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just change the order of the exams. And the way I can do that is come in here and click reorder. And I click on reorder, and then you get numbers here. Well, practice exam, I'm going to look down here at the bottom. Probably I'm going to want it at the very end of the list. And the very end is number 41. So what I'm going to do is just click 41 on that. Come down here and click 41. Another one, as I scroll down, we notice that the final exam is there, and actually that should probably be 41, so we'll put that one way right after the practice exam. And you notice it doesn't change them in order here now. I just have to click the numbers. Also, I'm taking, okay, here's chapter 1 random. I actually want that to be my second exam, so I'm going to go 2 with that. So you continue to do that. I'm going to go ahead and save this as it is so you can see what happened here so far. So here's the practice, chapter 1. Here's random, chapter 20. And then if I go down to the bottom with the others I've changed, you can see, I'm looking at that, there are my practice exam and crops final exam as we look at it. The other thing you look at here is I have 2 quizzes available for each chapter if I want these for grading. One is a random 20 and the other is all questions. If we click on all questions, what you'll see there is every question that's been written in the bank is there. So there's a total of 43 questions the students have to take. And depending how big the bank is, that's how many questions you'll have. Some of you may choose to do that. You can actually come through here and by edit questions. If there's some questions there you don't like, you can come in here and actually click on them and delete them, or add from another chapter for that matter. But all the chapter questions are here, and you can come in and edit this and just have 10 specific questions or 20 specific questions if you want. I'm going to just click done editing questions here without making any changes. So that's a place you can change this as you work at the questions there. So I'll cancel out of that since I didn't make any changes. With me, I prefer to use the random one. And if we go into the random quiz here, open that up. The random quiz basically, there are 3 questions randomly picked out of the book test bank, which those are the questions in the back of your book. In this case, there's a total of 18. It picked 3 of those 18. And every time it goes in, it picks a different 3 of those 18. Chapter 1 quiz, then that's that bank of what I said, 38 questions, or actually 43 questions. It's going to pull 17 questions out of those 43. Every time a student logs in, every student gets a different set of questions, probably in a different order there too. So the total number of questions they get every time is 20, but it's kind of randomized what they get. That's the kind of way I like it. So whichever you want, those are both available to you to use. Now, other thing I can do here is apply questions per page. Well, in this case, this is a question and that is a question. So there's only actually 2 question banks when I do apply. I just leave it blank. That way it shows all the questions as I see it. I can shuffle questions. Well, actually, I could put, I think, 1 question per page. So you can see, if you want to see all questions, the way I like to leave it, I just leave that blank. But if you want so many questions per page, you can put that in there. Excuse me. You can also shuffle questions at the quiz level, but they're already shuffled. So in a random, you don't need to shuffle. In the other questions, you might. Don't worry about categories. You can put in a category if you want. You can leave it out if you want. If you want to change the title because you don't like random 20 in there, for example, I'd rather just say it's a quiz so they don't not confuse the students about being a random 20. I can do that. Save those settings as we look at it. Next, I can go to restrictions as we're setting up this quiz. And it's active right now, but if I want it inactive so students can't see it, only I can see it, you can do that here. You can set due dates in here. There's a difference here. There's a start date you can set. There's an end date. Typically, your due date and your end date would be the same. Basically, the due date is soft. In other words, it says it's due, but they're allowed to submit after the due date until they hit the end date. So if you like to give students a little extra time after the due date, maybe give them half credit, come back and regrade it, you could do that. Most people like to have that set the same. That's whatever choice you guys make there. So if I set a due date in there, just a calendar in there, don't forget to set the time as you look at it. You can just click now, which would be basically what's going on there, or same thing with availability. You don't actually even have to open this up until you walk in there that day if you want. Security options, I'm not sure if lockdown and browser is available to everybody. I never use it. Basically, it doesn't let them go to another web page on their computer while they're taking the quiz. Well, they've got their smartphones and everything else, so when I look at it, I don't necessarily worry about that. Timing, you can set a time limit on this. In this case, it's set up as a recommended time limit of 2 hours. You can set that wherever you want. In this case, it's not going to be enforced, okay? It's just going to say, hey, you're over your time limit. You'll be able to see that they took more than 2 hours, but it still lets them work on the quiz. If you want to enforce that, you actually close the quiz, you click on that option there, and then this stage you can allow them to continue working, or you can prevent them from making any further changes once they hit that, or allow the student to continue working but automatically give them a 0 because they went past their date, or whatever the deadline was. And you can put deadlines in there on that. So a lot more power if you enforce the time limit. If you just want to clock on there, click on show clock, how they're doing. Again, those are your choices, however you want to do that. Typically, I enforce a time limit and I put at 720 minutes, which gives them 12 hours. But that's for my online classes. That allows students to get started on a quiz, go to another class, come back and finish the quiz at another time, but they finish it the same day. But that's however you want to do that when you work with that. So that's under restrictions. We go to assessments. This is where it's going to be graded. It's set up right now to be graded immediately as soon as they're done. It's going to go into Grade Atom Chapter 1 quiz, automatically export those grades as we look at it. I've got it set up right now here to allow them 2 attempts and to keep their highest attempt. If you only want 1 attempt, you can do that. You can change it to unlimited. Whatever you prefer to do with your students on the quiz as we look at it. Objectives, we're not using that feature right now. That may be used in the future, but you could actually attach learning objectives as competency-based education, things like that. Submission views, as I go to that one, the default view is it's set up to, they can see it immediately, and it actually shows them the questions they answered incorrectly, but does not give them the answer. If you don't want them to see any of the questions at all, you can come in there, and all I did is click on, I'll cancel that and do that again. I want a little quick on that. Is click on the Word default view. When you click on the Word default view, then this comes in. There's a message that they're going to get, and here's where you can change your options. Okay, you can just say, no, I don't want them to see any questions. Again, that's your choice on how you work that. You can actually let them see the answers if you want. I don't ever let them see the answers. I want them to look them up and try to figure them out. Show attempt score, overall score. You can actually have them show the class average and show class distribution if you want to there too. So that's the default view. As we went into that. And I'll just go ahead and click save on that. Immediately show questions, answer queries. Report setup, I'm not going to go into that. We don't have any setup in here or anything to work with. Once I'm all done with my settings, I just go ahead and save and close. And that's done. The practice quizzes, just one other thing I'll go on a practice quiz. Those are set up with all the quiz questions from the back of the book, no matter how many they are. I actually, in this one, if you go to the assessment on that as they're set up here, there is no grade items. These aren't actually even going in their grade books. If you want them to go in the grade book, you would just click Add Grade Item and do those other settings. So that's the basics of the quizzes as you look at them. Again, I didn't rearrange all of them, but that's up to you to rearrange them however you want. If you have any questions, go ahead and let me know.